Brought to you by IOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company. It's time for Tech Talk. Now, powered by NVIDIA AI infrastructure, Altron has unveiled South Africa's first operational AI factory. The facility gives businesses immediate access to enterprise AI infrastructure, combined with the expertise to use it effectively. In essence, our very own AI marketplace, which is likely to help spur on AI adoption in the country. Business Day's Mudiwa Gavaza joins us with more detail. Mudiwa, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. And maybe let's start with the basics. When Altron refers to an AI factory, right? What exactly does it mean? Are we talking about a physical facility in the traditional sense, or more of a data infrastructure platform? And what's the actual output of the factory?
Okay, so yesterday when I had a conversation with Altron's Group Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Andy Mabaso, that's the first question that I asked him. I said, you're calling this an AI factory. Can we define, the substance over the hype, around that? And basically what he was saying is that it's the latter of what you were describing. Okay. We're talking more about putting in the systems and the infrastructure so that your corporate clients in South Africa can easily just create and run up some of these AI models for their own internal use, either as internal platforms that are used for efficiency, or maybe there's some type of a customer-facing type of application that an enterprise is wanting to develop and then roll out into the world. What type of infrastructure do you tend to need to have locally? Yeah. And in this particular case, we are looking at computing power coming from NVIDIA, which is probably the leader when it comes to the type of chips and hardware that's needed to process the data and all of that. And then you've got ASUS, which is the hardware partner, because the likes of NVIDIA tend not to deal directly with their customers. They work through partners.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you've got Altron that then comes in as one, the implementing partner, and two, the consulting house, and then three, I think the word to use is almost a solutioning house, right? You are a bank, you want to create an AI agent that's going to help customers manage their finances. Maybe it specifically deals with, intelligently coming up with budgets, right? You need the computing power. Altron comes in and says, okay, there's these existing models that exist, from NVIDIA that are on the marketplace. You can either take it as is, or you take it and we can actually tweak it and change it to your liking.
And I think describing it as a marketplace then works better, because Altron is supplying this marketplace where companies can then come and choose the kind of tools they want to use.
Yeah. So the models themselves, to the understanding that I've been given, are coming from NVIDIA. And then a company like Altron is then able to actually make it work in whatever your company's environment is, right? You can pick, depending on what your need is. We just spoke about the financial planning one. Maybe you want a model that is sitting there and answering customer queries. Someone calls your hotline and you want something that's going to answer the calls and answer basic queries. Some of those models, already exist, and they have a bank of these. There's so many of them. You can actually just search, maybe fraud detection or something like that, and there's a model that's there, and you can either take it as is, or you can have it customized to what your company actually requires.
Now, with this initiative, do you get a sense that Altron is positioning itself as an AI infrastructure provider?
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't say infrastructure provider per se, but I would say that they're helping to manage I wouldn't. They are doing the classic system integrator,
Okay.
type of role that we see from technology companies. If you think about a lot of the international players, think your Google, especially your Microsofts, your SAPs, your Salesforce, those types of companies. In many instances, you're not dealing directly with a Microsoft, you're not dealing directly with a Salesforce.
Yeah.
You are working through partners. You find something that Salesforce has or Microsoft has, and then you work through, maybe one of their local IT, company providers. They can actually come in and either put it in as a system for you as is, or they can change it and become. So it's what has been there, right, in terms of the way that this technology company works. It's just that now they've created the infrastructure for companies to easily come in and create their own AI models using what's already there. The last piece I will say, and the reason why I'm saying they're not necessarily the infrastructure players, because the actual hardware, the chips, are NVIDIA chips. And then those are then sitting inside of data centers that are provided by Terraco, right? If people have been around the Johannesburg area, especially towards the airport and that type of area in the east of Johannesburg, there are some large data centers that sit there by Terraco. So basically, Altron has gone and created and has brought in this the hardware into South Africa. They've been able to set it up at Terraco, and now they're just waiting, for companies to come and use the computing that's there.
And Mudiwa, with I guess this large concentration of data and computing power, cybersecurity concerns are also at play. What kind of risks of data breaches or concerns exist in this kind of setup? Just considering so many people that are involved, and how is Altron also addressing these risks?
The key thing that's happening here is that we're building on a trend that's been there over the last couple of years, let's call it a decade plus, called cloud computing, where basically you are processing certain data not on your own premises, but you are leveraging computing power that is centralized. So, for example, many companies, including our own here in this building, you might have a server room somewhere, a set of computers that are helping you to process the various things, the various systems that are at play in your building. But with cloud computing, you're then saying, instead of us going and buying all of the racks, all of the chips, all of the infrastructure, we are going to either rent out space or rent out capacity from an Amazon, from a Microsoft, from a Google, whose hardware is sitting in a data center. In this particular case, that hardware is sitting at Terraco, which is the various data centers that they have here in South Africa. But to your point around the cyber and the data that's being created, there's this issue around what's called data sovereignty, which is basically, remember what I said, if you're processing certain information using centralized infrastructure, what many countries are trying to not do is to have that data leaving their country. Right.
Very sensitive information sometimes.
Exactly. Because in many instances, if you are accessing, let's say, a website or a music streaming service, usually that actual file that is playing on your phone or that you're watching is maybe sitting in a data center that is sitting in Europe, that is sitting in another part of the world, right? So in this particular case, they're saying, okay, let's bring the hardware to the shores. It can be the NVIDIA hardware, but let it be sitting in South Africa. Let the processing happen in a data center that sits here in South Africa. So those are all the things that an Altron is then helping corporates with, to say, we know you want to take advantage of AI. We know you want to do the models, but the computing power, instead of you having to rent out something that's happening elsewhere, we've brought the hardware here so that you don't have to wrangle with the regulators or, around that risk of data leaving the country's shores.
And would that then make Altron the first point when it comes to using such services in South Africa? Would corporates then pick Altron instead of the global operators, considering that the hardware sits here?
Yes, and remember what I said earlier on, because the key thing is the fact that almost the players that we're talking about tend to not work directly,
yes,
with some of these customers. You might go and strike a deal with one of these companies. Let's call it an NVIDIA in this particular case, but you need a supplier on the ground.
Okay.
That is actually making things happen, for your behalf. The way I would like to describe it is, you contact BMW or Mercedes-Benz in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I want an E-Class, I want a 5 Series, whatever it is. And they're like, that's really great. There's a dealership in Sandton. Right? Now, that dealership can be owned by Mercedes or BMW, or it can be a third-party dealership. But you're not necessarily yes, they have manufactured the car, but they aren't necessarily selling you.
Your first point of contact as well.
Yes. And in the same way, right, you don't get your car, when you are then getting your car serviced, you're not contacting the manufacturer in Germany to do it. You're contacting the person on the ground who's in your neighborhood, who's in your area. Hey guys, my brakes need to be sorted out, or I need an upgrade on my tires or whatever. And you go into a workshop and they work on your car. It's the same. It's almost the same analogy.
Okay.
It's a bit rough, what I've just described, but it's almost the same type of relationship that you can be using NVIDIA's hardware, but the people that you're dealing with on the ground become become the likes of an Altron. So in this particular case, Altron becomes like
your first point of contact.
Exactly, your dealership, your service center, and they have skilled technicians and people that can consult. Okay, you in this take for example Lelapa AI, right? That's a local company that is helping to make sure that AI models are using local languages in Africa, right? So they will take some of these models and they'll say to Lelapa, how do you guys want this model to actually work for you, instead of having it as off the shelf. Once again, coming back to the cars, you buy a stock Golf or a stock Polo, right? What do people tend to do? They tend to take off the stock rims and tires and put their own. So in this particular case, what is my actual use case, and how can you, as my first point of contact, help me to make that happen? Yeah.
All right, let's leave it there. Mudiwa, thanks so much for your time as always, and just taking us through that AI factory, the first one for South Africa. All right, that was Business Days. Mudiwa Gavaza. Brought to you by IOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company.